I want to raise kids that are humble, hardworking, good decision makers. They have stable relationships. So, I ask a lot of successful entrepreneurs what leads to that, and almost every answer in some degree revolves around teaching them how to struggle with grace. I think as a parent, you have two options. You can put a bubble around your kid and try to protect them from every bit of pain. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of high-earning, high-income people do. I had met those kids in college that had a bubble around them and had never had to make a decision, never suffered, never wanted for anything. Their parents wrote their essays for them. Those kids did not hack it, and they're still not hacking it. So I'm going to teach my kids how to make decisions. I'm going to let them make them live with the consequences of their decisions while they're small, so that when they get bigger, they can handle higher value decisions. And I'm going to, show them that life is not always easy.
And welcome to another episode of the Present Fathers Podcast. We are so excited to have Nick Huber of Sweaty Startup with us. Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a great conversation. So you have a new book out called The Sweaty Startup, and it is a banger. Yes, there it is. Exactly. He's got it.
Yeah, I wanted to write a book on parenting, though, so I'm really excited to be here.
Good. Yeah, definitely. Well, we talk about that stuff all the time, over 100 episodes about it. So tell us a little bit about your family. You have kids, you have a wife. Tell us the whole story.
Yeah, so I have a wife that I got married to. She was, met her in college, met her as a freshman in college, started dating her as a senior when I got her to dump that other guy, and then married her in 2016, had our first kid in 2017, and we have a 7-year-old boy, 5-year-old boy, 3-year-old little girl, just turned 3.
Congratulations.
Hoping for a couple more.
Beautiful family. Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Keep it coming. Okay, we got to hear this story then. How did you get your wife to dump the loser ex-boyfriend?
I sent a Hail Mary text to her best friend right before senior week, and I was like, hey, if Michelle ever dumps that loser, I'd love for you to set me up on a date because she is the most spectacular woman at this college.
That takes some cojones. Nicely done, my friend, and it worked out for you.
It worked out.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, about 3 days later, she sent me a text back that said, Operation Put in a Good Word with Michelle was successful, and she may or may not be single now.
Nicely done. So having a wingman, or in this case, a wingwoman, is really key for that that success there for sure. I love it. Yeah. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about the book writing process. I have seen a lot of AI writing. I've seen a lot of people using these new tools to help with their writing. Do you think that's cheating? Do you think it's okay to brainstorm, to do some of the writing? Or were you a purist and you just said, I'm going to write this book like it's 1999 and not use any of that stuff?
No, I actually haven't even read the book. I did not write it. I uploaded my entire tweet library and newsletter library to AI, and it wrote the whole book. So we'll see on Wednesday of this week whether or not AI wrote its first bestseller.
Very nice. So lots of dashes and delving and all that kind of stuff, right?
No, absolutely not. AI did not write my book. I hate AI writing. I think it's ruined email. I can spot AI writing from a mile away, and I'm still following closely, but I'm bearish in general on AI. I'm much more bearish than everybody else seems to be.
I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah, because that's definitely not the norm. Most people, it's going to change the world. It's going to make things better. Give me a couple reasons that you think that this new AI trend is going to be problematic.
I have let's see, demoed 20 AI tools. Look, I'm going to be the first one to implement AI in my company. Like, I change my mind very quickly. If there's a way that my 350 employees can either do the work of 600 or I can cut that to 200, like, I'm going to be the first guy to do that. So I'm radically open-minded about AI. I'm not seeing it. I've demoed 20 tools. I've tried to implement about 5 into my business. All of them have been a giant pain in the ass. So yeah, that's where we are.
So Nick, you were early to adopt outsourcing, right? So if you can get great work from people in the Philippines or South Africa, why not? Talk to me a little bit about that outsourcing process and why that's worked so well for you and your company, and maybe some success stories from people.
Yeah, I have majority ownership share in somewhere.com. So where I'm coming from is extremely biased. But I also have 325 employees, and I have 22 Americans across 11 companies. I can run my real estate private equity company for $1.3 million a year of overhead with almost 50 employees. My competitors are spending $5 and $6 million to run similar sized firms. So it allows us to grow faster. It allows us to still get super high quality output work. I'm building sales teams in South Africa, finance teams in Egypt, operations, marketing, property management in Latin America. So yeah, people think an assistant who can do repeatable tasks. I hired a head of sales and a CFO in Johannesburg for 80% less than the equivalent in the United States. So it's been a total game changer for all of my companies.
And I know a couple of smart South Africans, so I think like Elon. So I think you didn't make a bad choice there for sure.
Yeah, there's a few.
So does that play into the advice that you give your kids, Nick? Do you talk to them about jobs that maybe could be outsourced in the future that may not be as lucrative as they are today?
Man, when I'm thinking about raising kids, it's tough because I asked my 7-year-old, like, what does dad do for a living? Like, where does money come from for our family? And he's like, your wallet. I don't know. Like, you work on your computer. So I'm going to work into it, and I'm definitely going to, explain to them a lot of lessons around business and entrepreneurship and leverage and some of the things that are in my book. But man, it's really hard to explain that I buy companies and run a private equity business. It's hard to explain that to a 7-year-old.
Oh, completely. Yeah, my son is 5, and he's just to understand the concept of $1 plus another dollar makes more and all that. So, how would you explain leverage then in ELI 5? Right, explain it like it's to a 5-year-old. What is your plan to then teach your kids? This is how leverage works. This is why people who work for a wage can only make so much money. Because I own a business, I can make this much.
Yeah, that's man. Like, this is the $1 million question. Like, generational wealth is passed down through what is taught at a dinner table. Like, it's cultural. So I plan to teach my kids how to think about business, how to think about assets, how to think about it's passive income has always been a dirty word to me because no money is truly passive in my opinion. But I want them to be stewards of our family's capital. I definitely don't plan to give all my money away and have them, earn it on their own. I think what I've been able to do will be a major blessing and advantage for them if I raise them the right way. But I think about it all the time of how to build generational wealth and also raise really good kids. And every successful entrepreneur that I talk to, I ask about that, especially the ones with good kids, because I meet a lot of people who are making real money and they have asshole kids who walk around like their shit doesn't stink and they got their nose in the air and they don't know the value of a dollar, and they're not humble. I want to raise kids that are humble, hardworking, good decision makers. They have stable relationships. So, I ask a lot of successful entrepreneurs what leads to that, and almost every answer in some degree revolves around teaching them how to struggle with grace. So I'm kind of I think as a parent, you have two options. You could put a bubble around your kid and try to protect them from every bit of pain. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of high-earning, high-income people do. I met those kids in college that had a bubble around them and had never had to make a decision, never suffered, never wanted for anything. Their parents wrote their essays for them. Those kids did not hack it, and they're still not hacking it. So I'm going to teach my kids how to make decisions. I'm going to make them live with the consequences of their decisions while they're small so that when they get bigger, they can handle higher value decisions. And I'm going to show them that life is not always easy. I'm never going to, abuse my kids by any means, but I'm not going to protect them from the normal difficulties of life.
Don't let them feel the scars, but definitely let them feel some of the pain so they understand the lessons. I like that. So
yeah, like a kid who drops their iPhone and the screen cracks and their parents just buy them a new one. Like, if that's your life growing up, you don't understand consequences of your actions. Like, you don't have to live with them. So the rules of life don't apply to you, but life is freaking hard for everybody. So when you're out on your own, no matter how wealthy you are, life is hard. You're going to have health problems. You're going to have relationship problems. You're going to have business problems. You're going to have things go awry. And if you can't handle that stress, you're going to be a basket case. So everybody knows those rich people who bitch at waitstaff over stupid little things. It's not going to be my kid.
I love that. Yeah, you can always tell when someone's like, my water's too warm, how dare you? And you're like, okay, this guy's making $8 an hour. Give the guy a break.
Yeah. So I'm going to raise kids that, are used to solving some problems and dealing with some difficult things. I think part of that comes through adventure. Sports is really great for that because the basketball court doesn't give a shit about how much money your dad makes. Um, so I think some of those things are really good, but also just life. You can't have everything you want when you want it. If you make a bad decision, you got to live with it. Those are some of the things that I plan to teach my kids.
Yeah, and I think like with the iPhone thing, like my kid broke one of my old ones. He was using it to do like learning apps and stuff, and instead of replacing it, I made him fix it. So we sat
Hmm.
down and we spent 4 hours fixing it because, like you said, you want a solution to every problem, but that solution might be really hard to get to, and it might take some time or consequence, right? But I think there's other aspects too, how we can raise our kids, especially if they're extremely blessed and wanting for very little. And I think that's scarcity. One of the things that I have tried to do is let my kids feel scarcity to an extent, so that they understand the value of what they have an abundance of, right? And then obviously the other things would be like teaching them how to communicate with other people in a proper way, with like empathy and respect and kindness and things like that. But what are some things that you would give as examples, or things that you would strive to teach them around the dinner table, like you were mentioning before?
Yeah, I'm already pushing and stressing my 5 and 7-year-old to communicate with people and solve some little life problems on their own. My wife wasn't thrilled with me, but my 5 and 7-year-old together walked into a Dollar Tree near my home and bought something. Like they got $10 and they went in to buy themselves a toy. And I sat in the parking lot uncomfortably for about 13 minutes while they were inside there. And they came out with two exactly $5 things. So they also talked somebody in there to paying the tax for them because they only had $10. So I don't know how they wheeled that, but they pulled it off.
Nice.
Um, calling on the phone and asking a restaurant if our family can sit, if there's reservations available. They've walked into Chick-fil-A on their own to make an order at the counter. When we're at the country club and they want candy, they have to be the one to walk up to the lady at the snack shop and tell them the number, ask them what they would like. And it's super uncomfortable for kids. They'll get really mad. They'll get really shy. They'll get, um, you know, angry, like cry at times when you make them do these things. But it's like, hey, if you want candy, you got to go ask for it. You got to tell them our number. You got to say thank you, ma'am. And now my 7-year-old can see an adult and look them right in the eye and shake their hand and make conversation. And it's a lost art. And just that lesson puts them ahead of 99% of kids who just scroll
Absolutely.
TikTok and look at their phones all day long.
There's a lot of 17-year-olds that can't do that. Yeah, the thought of asking for ketchup at McDonald's is, devastating for them. I want to jump back a little bit to generational wealth because you mentioned that. That's such a fascinating topic to me. Let's take Warren Buffett, for example, the GOAT, right? He's retiring, but he's not giving his money to his kids. He's giving it most to charity, and then he's going to give his kids a little bit of money. Talk to me about, sell me on generational wealth and why it might be better to give your kids that money so they can go build something instead of just giving it to charity.
I just plan like Warren Buffett knows what he's doing, and he's got way like 1% of Warren Buffett's money is way more money than I'll ever make. So he is giving his kids more money than I'll be able to give my kids. Let's be real. But I also know that this giving pledge that all these celebrities sign up for, 5% of them have actually done it. So it's way easier to say that you're going to give all your money away and not give it to your kids than actually hang your kids out to dry. Now, look, if I have challenges in life I can't control, there are some things that I can't control, and my kids could struggle with addiction. They could struggle with mental health. They could become burdens of society that actually can't take care of themselves. These are all possibilities. Different scenario, but assuming I can accomplish my goal, which is raise kids that can be good stewards of capital, raise kids that can lead companies, raise kids that can add value to the world. Money is a tool for them to amplify their goals and their impact on the world. So why would I not want them to have that amplification?
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, if I look at the wealthy people, a lot of wealthy people that I know, and my story is no different, wealth is always a generational game. It's always a generational game. My great great grandfather came over to New York City, to Ellis Island, and he worked his whole life for $4 an hour so that his kids could go to high school in Manhattan. Then they moved out and, worked their whole lives making $12 an hour so their kids could go to a decent high school and go to college. My parents met in college. that set me up. They were earning in the top 1% of the world by the time I was born, and I was able to take a little bit more risk and go start a company. Most people don't have that because they don't have that stability. They don't have that. We can talk about the dynamics of a loving relationship and what that does for kids, but wealth is always a generational game. So when these people act like it's not, it's just a cop out, in my opinion.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. So if you had $100,000 to give your kids, would you send them to college? Would you give them that money to try to build a business? What are your thoughts here with how you're going to set your kids up for success when they become adults?
It's a funny thing because I'm by no means self-made. Like, I was born in America. My parents have a safety net. I don't really like the term self-made, but I did not come from wealth. My parents didn't own assets. They both worked for salaries. They didn't have equity in a business. They didn't have any real estate. So now that I do have those things and I plan to be the one to give and enable my kids, it's kind of foolish for me to think that there won't be strings attached to that. I think a lot of rich kids feel this, is that yes, their dads help set them up, or their uncles or whoever might have the money, but with it comes a lot of strings and control. So I hope that I have a relationship that's still healthy with my kids so that I can give them money for ventures, loan them money, do business with them without controlling their lives. That's, I think, a big problem, but I'm already thinking about some of those things that can go wrong.
And that's key. It's such a tough balance, right? Because you do want to provide that help, but you also need to let them make their mistakes, and you could help them, but that might be worse for them long term. So I'm glad you're thinking. I know
a lot of kids my age, so not kids at all. They're young adults. They're 35 years old. They have wives. They have kids, but like, their parents paid for their country club membership. Their parents bought their Escalades. Their parents pay for their kids' school, and I think that's a blessing. I will probably do the same thing. But they also have nothing good to say about their relationship with their father-in-law or their father because of the control and the strings that comes with that. So I think generational wealth is very complex. I'm not foolish enough to think that I have it figured out. My oldest kid is 7, and I hope that I can, priority number 1 is raise kids that can handle stress and raise kids that can add value to the world. And I think if I can do those 2 things, the opportunity for me to enable them with cash or investment or loans or partnerships or opportunities are endless, really. So yeah, it's an exciting challenge that I can't wait to go after, but it's going to be difficult.
Definitely challenges ahead. And wealth isn't just financial. We just finished reading Sahil Bloom's book, The 5 Types of Wealth. So, so much of this is, are you giving them an understanding of how valuable time is and how valuable their friendships are? Mm-hmm. I did not have a dad around, so I didn't necessarily have a legacy. And we talked to one of our favorite guests, a guy named Nick Freitas. He's a Green Beret, and same situation, didn't have a dad around. And so I asked him about legacy and said, what does legacy mean to you? And he said, you still have a legacy. It just begins with you. And that was really powerful for me. So I've started thinking about legacy and kind of the directions that I'd like to see. So in addition to just wealth, building businesses, what would you like to think of as your legacy that you might be able to pass on to your children?
Man, I have, as you read in my book and as you see on X, and if you're on my newsletter, people know that I have really strong opinions about some things. And so I will hope that my kids are naturally logical and are naturally not want to go, to Babson, or go to, Emerson in Boston to try to be an artist, or Berklee College of Music to try to be a musician against all odds, get $60,000 a year further in debt to go chase, be in La La Land, essentially. I hope that my kids don't try to make that decision. I don't know if I would allow it, really, if I would fund it. I wouldn't fund my daughter to go to New York City to liberal arts school. I think that's a total disaster of a path of life. So the life lessons that you read about in Sahil's book, I feel very strongly about. And I think that some paths, especially if you chase status paths that Sahil talks a lot about, of being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an accountant, some of these paths where if you actually look down the hall at people who are winning these games, their life is not good on average. I'm going to really struggle with that when it comes to guiding my kids, and I hope I can do it in a loving way. But it's those are some of the tough things, I think.
Oh, you're not kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my nightmare is my daughter ending up being 40 years old, still swiping left and right in apps in New York City. That's my nightmare. You call me conservative, call me old-fashioned, but I think the culture in these major cities, especially for females, is a disaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of some of my views that I hope I can pass to my children in loving ways.
I think you did the right thing too. You moved from kind of a gritty Boston apartment down to Athens, Georgia, which is much warmer and family friendly environment. So, you know, I guess encouraging your kids to be in the right kind of communities where they're valued is going to be a really important thing. But how has that community, like in Athens, shaped your kids' upbringing, and why was it like the move so pivotal to you?
This was a move that changed everything about my life and the way I think about the future, especially with kids. I was in Boston. I got married at, 25, 26 years old. And my wife and I were pregnant with our first kid at 27, 26. We went to friends' apartments for a party shortly after my wife got pregnant. This is in Boston with a bunch of people who were good people. They were our friends. One of them asks my wife, like, "Oh, what are you going to do when the baby comes? Like, what are you going to do about childcare? Are you going to get a nanny? What are you going to do about your career?" Like, because the women in her network were very career oriented. So their first questions were around like, how do you balance having a family and how do you balance having a career? And my wife said, you know what? I thought I was going to end up going back to work, but now that I'm actually pregnant, the only thing in the world I care about is this baby. And I don't think I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. And their faces, like their jaw hit the ground. And they're like, oh my God. Later, they pulled her aside. Two of the girls pulled her aside and confronted her and asked her if I had forced her to make that decision and say that. And right then on the way home from that party, we kind of made the decision to get the hell out of that culture. And I'm glad we did, because now looking forward, that's been 10 years. We're 35 now. We look back at that group of friends and one or two are married and one or two of the group have kids out of 10 couples. They just have not prioritized family. And I think that's a total, utter disaster. That they don't even realize is unfolding in real time. So we moved to Boston, where now you go to a family gathering or party. We call it a party, but it's really just a bunch of kids running around. The kids outnumber the parents. People go to church. Women want to get married and stay home instead of like earn $350,000 a year in Manhattan. So, as a culture, I just kind of worry about some of the things that we're prioritizing in these cities, and moving to a culture that was different has been a massive positive influence for me, because I think being a mom, if I just put myself in the shoes of my wife, being a mom is really lonely. It's hard. You used to be a mom and you used to be on a block of, houses, and all the moms were together all day and the kids were running around and you'd pop into each other's homes. There's a lot of support. Now these women are trapped in these houses alone in the suburbs or even in towns like Athens, but especially in the cities where they don't have anybody who can even relate to them. They have women confronting them about why they're giving up on their careers when they get pregnant. I think that's a real shame, because I think being a mother is amazing. It's an amazing gift and it's an amazing challenge, and it takes an amazingly strong woman. And, we got to go back to a time when women are proud of that. So moving to Athens, where women are proud of that, has been a major influence on my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think you made the right call there. I did the same thing. I was living in Missouri and I took a pay cut moving back to Florida to have my mom, my wife's parents around, and she has a great support network, and it makes all the difference, because same thing. She has very successful friends. Many of them don't have kids, and they 100% prioritized their career and making as much money as possible. And now they're in their 40s, no kids. And some of them are not that happy with that decision they made. So it's so tough because you don't realize it when you're 20 and you're a girl boss. Okay, great. Everything's good. Then 20 years later, you realize what you missed out on. It's really a tough scenario.
And there's this illusion of choice in these cities. The apps have made it worse. The scene has made it worse. Women outnumber men in New York City, 2-1 almost, 60-40, I think there. It's difficult for ladies to have a career and also find men who want to commit. Like you could be a woman in New York City who actually wants to have a family, and you can't find men who are willing to commit and want to make that adjustment. So, I guess we can talk more about what it's been like for me and kind of my mindset shift and what happened when I had kids as an entrepreneur. But I think it's just been nothing but positives for us. So I'm really glad. And the thing about this is everybody I know over the age of 50, every single human I know, the number one priority in their life is their kids and grandkids. It's above business. It's above fitness. It's above careers, it's above everything else. So, it's a shame a lot of people are making the choice not to do it.
So what was different about your mindset, Nick? You're a pretty young guy. I think the statistic is that only 18% of men under 30 now get married. So you got married and had a kid before 30. What made you different? How did you get into this mindset that you wanted to get started young?
I had a vision. I knew what I wanted to accomplish in life. Like, I didn't want to be 40 and not have a family. I didn't want to be 60 and still have kids in the house. It's like getting married and building a life with somebody was exciting to me, and having a bunch of kids was something I knew. I don't know why I knew it, but I just knew that it would be really important and it would pay off. And I'm really glad I made the commitment instead of just continuing to swipe left and right and looking for a unicorn.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's dovetail that into why boys seem to be struggling so much in our culture right now. I know when I went to school, my class had 24 females in it and 5 guys. It seems like the academic culture really makes it, women have a lot more success with it than boys and men seem to. Have you seen that as well? Do you have an idea of why boys seem to be struggling so much in our culture, at least from a career perspective?
I mean, I have my own thoughts on school. I think homework is bullshit, and I don't think kids should have to do it when they get home. I think also having 7, 10, 15-year-old kids sit all day and listen to a teacher and flip pages left and right and solve problems that are a couple pages back is not a healthy way to live. There's no play, there's no adventure, there's no surprises, there's nothing that, stimulates, especially me when I was that age. Luckily, I went to a half-assed public school in Indiana where I could study 1 hour a week and get straight A's. But yeah, I think folks are taking school a little bit too seriously, in my opinion. I don't think academics is the key to life by any means at all.
I would agree. I see that a lot in the psych sector where, there's tons and tons and tons of kids that are addicted to screens and gaming because everything is so much more fun and it gets that deep-rooted point out in such a better way than like schooling does. And I think that's where like AI and tech can be disrupted, and I'm hoping that it will be in the the coming decade. But like
there's going to be a major pushback on technology, major pushback.
Yeah.
A lot of smart people that I know are locking their phones in boxes, deleting social media. It's just not good for them, for the mind at all. And I think if you put your kid in front of we can start on video games, but I think video games are a hidden total epidemic, and they're ruining the lives of a lot of men. So putting your kids in front of that just doesn't make any freaking sense. It's like giving your kids a pack a day of cigarettes, in my opinion, because you're playing Russian roulette with their future, and they're going to end up in your basement at 35 years old casting spells and dressing like a wizard. There's a high chance of that.
Yeah.
So why the hell would you take that chance as a parent? But then there's shorts on YouTube, there's TikTok, there's these shows that are just, programmed and algorithmically perfect at sucking all the dopamine out of you so that you don't have an attention span. What it does is it takes the attention span, so kids don't want to read books. They don't get excited about business. They don't have an interest in getting their driver's license. They're not interested in women. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So let's say for the dad that's already kind of introduced their kids to tablets and games, and he's wanting to get into books and to get into the more natural things, how would you recommend him starting to do that to kind of rewire his kids' brains?
If your kid was addicted to crack cocaine, what would you do? You take away the goddamn crack.
Right.
So I don't know how you expect you to put your kid in front of something hyper addictive and to not have them fall into an addictive trap. So yeah, you get it out of your house right away, and your kid bitches and screams, but who cares? They're 7, they're 12. You can fight that fight. It's your job as a leader to set them up for success in the future. And would you let your kid who's 12 sports bet? Would you let your kid who's 12 drink 4 beers? Would you let your kid who's 12 watch pornography? Why are you letting them play video games that are hyper addictive? I mean, I have good friends here in Athens that have kids that they're great dads, they're great people, they're high earners. Their kids are showing every sign of severe addiction with video games. And they're ignoring it. They're ignoring it, that the kids are always requesting more screen time on their watch, asking them when they can turn the Wi-Fi back on. Can I get more time? Dad, do you want to go play golf? No, I don't want to play golf. Do you want to go camping? No, I don't want to go camping. I want to play video games. So it's sad, but a lot of dads need to wake up. Wake up.
I love it. I love that, man. I I've made the conscious decision to remove tablets and everything, and the only thing that they were allowed to see was anything educational. So like if they're
Mhm.
watching anything on like YouTube, it's completely restricted and it has to be educational. Otherwise, they're going outside with me and we're going to do something sports
Yeah,
wise,
like
right?
my kids watch TV. Like you have to have it. You have to have some way to occupy your kids when you need to get work done, when you got to get ready. But they watch full length shows on Netflix or on PBS Kids, or it's the old boring stuff that's not algorithmically programmed to disrupt all of your sensors in your brain.
I agree.
So there's no like YouTube is not in existence in my house. It's not in existence because unfortunately, YouTube is an algorithm
Hmm.
that feeds you things that are addictive. Unfortunately, so yeah, it's tough. Like our kid, we go visit family or friends, and the next thing I know, all the kids are in a room watching shorts, and I walk in and it's a monkey jerking off, and my 3-year-old is watching that. Like this is very real. This is what happens. So call me an alarmist. You think that I'm getting all worked up over nothing, but I feel pretty strongly that your kids aren't going to be interested in books. Your kids are going to be fine. Yes, like there's a lot of kids addicted to technology, but are your kids going to have the attention span to learn how to read really well and want to? My son loves folding origami. Like that's a perfect path for engineering. He gets excited about that.
Sure.
I just don't think he would if he had Minecraft.
Well, that's a great point. So you might have everything cleaned out from your house, but like cousins, friends might have lots of exposure. How do you kind of limit that for your child when he is, hanging out with these other kids, right?
I don't worry about it. Like
Uh,
I fight the battles that I can fight.
mm,
I don't do sugar drinks in my house, but if my kid gets a hold of a sugar drink or a Coke at a friend's house, like it's not the end of the world. We
Okay.
filter our water and we don't allow our kids to drink a bunch of fluoride and all the crap that's in that. But when they're at restaurants, they drink water. Like I do the 80-20 of this stuff really.
Okay.
So
I love
I'm
it.
I'm not I'm not the Brian Johnson of technology for kids.
Yeah. Don't make your kids a vampire, man.
Yeah, they gotta live a normal life, and they're gonna get cell phones. They're gonna need to live a normal life. But yeah, I want them to chase girls. I want them to you know play sports. I want them to drive and go to parties, and I want them to live a normal livelihood that teaches you how to socialize and date and be a normal human. I don't think video games does any of that.
I love it. So, Nick, you tapped into something really important, the leadership element for dads. And I know that's something I struggled with not having a dad around. I didn't necessarily learn leadership until I got older.
Mm-hmm.
And my marriage has improved dramatically since I've started leading and actually making decisions. But I
Yeah.
see it, it's an epidemic among dads, especially. We're afraid to lead. We see it as toxic, right? That was toxic of you that your wife is staying home, right? How dare you, not let her go pursue her dream of working in a cubicle for 40 hours a week. So, how did you embrace leadership as a dad? Was it before you had kids, or was it something that you've really blossomed into with your kids growing up?
So running a company is a lot like running a household, and you can't run an effective company by being a dictator. You can't tell everybody what needs to happen, why it needs to happen, and when it needs to happen. I'm very good at um, like taking feedback and changing my opinion. My One of my employees has a great idea or they disagree with me. I'm gonna listen, and I often change my mind. My wife has a good idea that I disagree with. I'm gonna listen, and I very often change my mind. So um, there's a big difference between being a dictator and telling everybody how it's going to be and turning into an asshole. I think a lot of men do that. They go too far. There's a balance between that and just being super passive and letting your kids walk all over you and treat you in a disrespectful way. So um, I think it starts with having a super loving, positive environment with your kids and letting your kids see an amazing relationship and a respectful relationship with your wife, but also not being afraid to see your kid cry when you tell them no. Not being afraid to watch your kid throw a little fit because they can't get what they want to have, even if you know that it's not best for them. So, and my wife backs me up on that. She knows like when my husband picks, we got to pick your battles as parents because your kids are always going to have little things, and if you're all over them all the time, it's not going to be a good environment. It's not going to be loving. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to be playful with them. But my wife knows that when I pick a battle, she's going to support me no matter what. And if she disagrees with it, we can talk about it later. And same with her. If she picks a battle to fight, I'm right there to back her up. So it's a great dynamic for us. But man, parenting is really hard. It'll humble you. Like kids are not logical beings. They don't have logical, you know, tendencies. They don't have attention spans. There's a lot of things about having kids that's really difficult. So I'm not perfect by any means. Like I'm speaking largely to myself as a reminder to myself right now.
Well, and that's the great thing about these conversations is it gives you that chance to do it. Go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, me personally, I don't trust the leadership of somebody until they've been a father, strictly because of how much it grows you and it forces you to grow out of the comfort zone and all the places that you're just complacent, right? So, what are some like core things that really grew further for you when you became a father initially?
Oh man, you're taking the words right out of my mouth, Brandon. I became a better human when I had kids. I became more patient. And I think part of that is that I suffered myself in a way. Like having kids is 30% hell and 30% euphoria. It amplifies the highs and it amplifies the lows. So it just keeps you humble to have kids and being involved with your kids. It would be really easy for us to be passive parents, have a nanny, have daycare, have the tablets when they get home, play the video games, whatever. That is not how we are doing it. So therefore it's hard. And it makes me better because I have a lot of good shit happening in my life. I'm kicking ass in business. I'm healthy. My wife and I have a good relationship. I feel like things are rocking and rolling. There's no better way to get humbled than come home to a kid that's throwing a fit, right? Or a kid that gets sick or a challenge with behavior and some of these things that we all deal with. So when I had people think, oh, I need to wait till I'm at a good financial point to have kids. I'll tell the 25-year-old listening they need to wake up because that's not how it works at all. And my focus, my discipline, my decision making, and my earnings all drastically improved when that first baby was on the way.
That's so interesting because we're told the opposite. Wait until your career gets in place and then have your kids. So you're saying having the kids actually supercharge your career. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I was forced to make different priorities. I was not looking forward to a trip to gallivant around Europe. I was not looking forward to another night at Ned Devine's in downtown Boston where I was going to be hungover for 2 days after. I was excited about different things. I was excited to see the next thing about my kid, and I was excited to get a good night's sleep, and I was excited to earn. I was focused on earning to provide for my family because my wife wanted to stay home. So yeah, it amplified everything for me. My earnings, like there's a very clear path of mine, and I'm sure many other men, of my earnings were, going up, and then when I had kids, it went beyond my wildest dreams, frankly. I know not all situations like that, but it changed me.
So talk to me about your family plan a little bit. So you're a great planner at work. What do you do at home when you're working with your wife to make sure that this environment stays good? Do you talk to your wife once a month? Do you guys have a conversation over the dinner table? Do you have a system that works really well for you to make sure that you're on the same page with your kids?
I think it's funny about the scheduling, especially with kids and being an entrepreneur, is that it's not linear and it's not steady. Like me as an entrepreneur, I'll go a year or two where things are rocking and rolling, my companies are doing well, and I'm just frankly not working that much. And then I'll have a year like I've had over the last 12 months where there's massive opportunity in front of me and I'm a lion and I'm in the field and I'm chasing the gazelle. And my wife knows that, hey, right now we're getting after it. So there's many gardens of life and everyone needs water. My kids need water. My health and fitness needs water. My businesses need water. My wife needs water. My friendships, my hobbies, all these different areas need my time and energy. But I have a strong enough foundation with my wife, with my body, that I can grind and not ignore, but I can not put as much water in certain buckets for a period of time, and my life is very much intact. Now, being an entrepreneur is hard, and I'm not acting like my marriage and being a father and I'm perfect at all of it. But in an ideal world, like me and my wife we went on a date last night just together to eat dinner. We get up before our kids every morning and have coffee from 6 to 6:30 when our kids wake up at 6:30. And we refuse to have a rat race in the morning to get out of the house. We've never had it. It's never been, oh, get up, get your clothes on, let's run out of the house. So mornings our favorite time. To do that, we have to turn off Netflix shows when we're halfway through to go to bed at 9:30. Whereas other couples are just letting the next one play, and the next thing you know, it's 1 a.m. Like, we don't do that. We're disciplined. So, yeah. And then it is a lot of planning as well around, what do we want to do this year? What are our goals? What adventures are we going to take? Nick, what's your travel schedule like? What are you going to say no to? What are you going to say yes to? What conferences am I going to come to? Are we going to spend summer in Colorado like we did last year? Are we going to go to New York this year? Those are all things that my wife and I plan.
That's how you get it done. I love it. Definitely. So we got started a little bit late. We got a couple more questions for you. Don't want to take up too much of your time. As far as core memory goes, can you share a couple of core memories with your kids that you're never going to forget, that were just really special for you as a dad?
Yeah, I would like to say that it's a epic adventure or a expensive trip to Disneyland, or, we went to Crested Butte last summer. It was very expensive, but an amazing trip. And there were so many core memories built with my son mountain biking around the mountains. And, that stuff was epic, but it's smaller than that. I don't know. It's like yesterday I was in the golf simulator with my son, and he striped the driver and turned around, and that look on his face after he hit it, he like felt it. He felt the feeling of striping a golf shot that we as men chase a ball around a field for 4 hours to just try to get that feeling one time. It's little stuff like that has just been amazing about parenting.
Man, there's a lot of those instances for me, but looking back on your journey as a father, when you first became one to where you're at now, clearly, experience teaches the best. So what is just a really solid piece of advice that you would give for a dad that's just starting out in his fatherhood journey?
Just try your hardest and give yourself some grace. You're not going to be perfect. Try to stay away from video games. And if your kids are playing video games, try to stop it as soon as possible, no matter how hard they kick and scream. Yeah. And my oldest is only 7, so I have a lot to learn over the next. We need to do this episode again in 5 years for sure, because we're going to be fighting the social media fight and the dating and the travel baseball and all the bullshit that dads have to deal with. It's easy to get sucked into sports. I think sports, when I was doing sports 20 years ago, was fun and it was balanced, and you could do multiple sports and you could still go on adventures with your family and go on vacations and have fun. And unfortunately, sports is not that way anymore, except for a couple. Like you run track and field, there's only so much training you can do, but to do baseball, to do basketball, to do football, to do lacrosse, to do swimming, like gymnastics, soccer, these sports are now machines, and you can't compete unless you have an unbalanced life in some ways. So I'm watching a lot of who were great friends of mine 2 or 3 years ago. Now their kids play travel baseball, and I don't see them, and they don't see any of their friends. And for a middle-class family that can, like, you're really going to spend 10 grand a year that you don't have to go watch your kid play left field and bat 7th in a 6th grade baseball tournament. It's a tough thing to slip into. And I also see these parents act crazy at these games. It just makes them crazy.
Yeah, you're playing the wrong game, right? The whole idea is balance, and to make sure that your kids get to be kids and grow up and have fun, and not throw their arm out when they're 13, because they pitch too much, and now, they're devastated as far as that goes.
Or spend every weekend that you have free plus vacation days in hotel rooms. It's wild.
Yeah, it really is. So Nick, if you had an archetype of a dad, a guy that you really try to shoot for and be like, okay, what would this guy do in this type of situation? Do you have a guy or maybe a couple different people that you can think of that really guide your decision making when you're deciding what to do with your kids?
Yeah, I just think of a stoic father, somebody who is never acting out of anger, somebody who is always dependable and logical, somebody who is a great leader and decision maker, somebody who is harsh but also loving. So much of this is about balance. I think you can take a lot of this stuff too far. Just like to be a great entrepreneur, you have to have an ego, but you also have to have the humility to admit when you're wrong and change direction. So many people struggle to balance that tightrope. And I think it's a tightrope. Like, it's really hard. So I just try to take a deep breath, stay cool, stay calm, and be logical. But it's not always easy, man.
No kidding. I know as a dad, when I really feel like I made a mistake, it was usually an emotional decision. My son does something that I know I made as a mistake as a kid, and it triggers me. I made that mistake. Why is he making the same mistakes? And then I yell at him, I lose it, and then I have to apologize later. And it always comes from that emotional place when I can stay stoic and focus.
I'm with you. I'm not perfect. I raise my voice at my kids and I regret it afterwards. But I think sometimes a kid needs a little sense yelled into him, but I don't know. Like, it's never good to be an emotional, reactive person. So being steady and logical is my default approach, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, totally agree. Nick, this has been such a pleasure having this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for putting up with my tech difficulties. As you can see, I'm the boomer of the group, but we got it all figured out. Nick, where is the best place for people to find you if they want to chat with you?
Yeah, like if you want my mantra on business and life, I think the Sweaty Startup book is not necessarily all about business. It's about earning in your career. It's about being a good leader. It's about there's a lot about parenting in the last chapter of this book. So I think pick up the book and see if it resonates with you.
I love it. All right, we'll make sure that the link to that is in the show notes. So go get Nick's book. It's a great read. A lot of wisdom in there. Awesome stuff. Nick, thank you again so much for joining us. Dads, let's get climbing that mountain of fatherhood.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you're on YouTube, drop a subscription to us. And if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. It helps greatly. If you are also ready to level up as a man, check out Elite Sentinel Coaching, our program designed specifically for men, where we forge men into leaders. We turn cowards into kings, weaklings into warriors. Become the hero in your story. Join us today.